Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel, What's in Yours. If you're a return viewer or a subscriber, I want to say thank you, welcome back. And then if you're a new viewer to my channel, I want to say welcome. And just a reminder to let everybody know that my channel solely focuses on electric scooters. We do how-tos, reviews, and modifications on a wide range of scooters, anywhere from commuting scooters all the way to your go-fast scooters. So if you like that type of content and you enjoy my channel, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. In this particular video, we're going to be doing a multicolor LED upgrade installation for my Nanrobot RS7. We're also going to be installing a digital DC to DC voltage converter, and then also wiring it all up, turning it on, and seeing the before and after of the modification. So without further ado, let's get into the upgrade. Alright folks, so here are the components that we're going to be installing. Of course we have the DC to DC voltage converter, digital one, so I can set it up to different voltages for output, so that makes it real convenient if I want to add extra lighting later on. And then we're going to have this XT60 splitter that we're going to have to add in there. Of course we have a switch we're going to add to the side of the scooter, and then here are all the lights, 6 of them, that I'm going to be installing: red, blue, and green. And so I'm going to set this to the side and kind of give you an idea of what we're going to do here. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be connected to the battery wire. I have these strips, and I'll show you on the side right here, that I disconnected right here. I'm going to strip those wires, strip these connectors off of these, and between those these little lights right here and that, I'm going to connect all those together into that switch, of course into that buck converter, and be able to control those lights on and off separately from the scooter. So stay tuned, and we'll go next. We're going to drill the holes and we're going to get the lights installed. So stay tuned and I'll be right back. Okay folks, so I got all the holes drilled and everything ready to be installed in the scooter. But one thing that you might want to do before you install all that stuff in the scooter is to bench test all the things that you're going to be installing. So there's a lot of information I'm going to be giving here, and fortunately enough there's rewind, forward, and pause, so you can get through this, and if you miss something you can rewind it and check it out. But basically in the beginning I was going to be installing this digital buck converter, but one thing that I didn't realize is that every time power is cut to this, it resets itself back to the minimum voltage, which was 5 volts. So I can't use this because I want to be able to turn off the power to all the lights with a switch. That way it doesn't drain my battery. So I had to get one of these. It's the same thing, it's just a solid state one. It's non-adjustable, but it does have a range of 20 to 72 volts, and which max voltage on my scooter battery is about 68. And then so this buck converter does 20 to 72 volts in, 12 volts out, 5 amps max, and it's a little bit more compact, so it's going to be easier to fit in the scooter. Then also too, of course I got these little LED lights. I'm not putting these ones in, but this is what they look like. Okay, I'm going to be installing those on the deck. And then also too, another thing I want to mention is that these strip lights right here were on the side of the scooter, and one of the things I wanted to do is be able to control these lights, turn them on and off, because what was the problem is, well, it wasn't really a problem, it's just the way it was designed, is when you cut on the lights at night, or the headlights, these come on, and I don't necessarily want these on all the time, because these are just accent lighting. So I wanted to be able to put a switch on this to turn them on and off. Unfortunately, these strip lights are operated at 60 volts. Inside the scooter they have a buck converter these are attached to 60 volts. So I was saying, that's not going to work because these lights are 12 volts. Okay, so what I did is I went to Walmart and bought a pack of strip lighting. I cut them down to size, and then those basically, they have these covers that used to go on the old ones right here. Then I modified it to fit in here. So these will be protected because this is just, you know, silicone rubber, but these are waterproof and whatnot, and the connections are like a Deutsch connector, which are waterproof as well. And then it also came with this little fancy dancy remote, but this will be inside the scooter because these lights right here, they just flashed all these different colors really fast, and I wanted like a slow pulse type deal. And when we turn this thing on, you'll see what I mean. So basically, I got it to the buck converter, and I bought one of these pigtail XT60 connectors off of Amazon, and I connected it to the scooter. Then I installed this switch right here to turn the lights on and off, and that's gonna cut off my power first at the buck converter. So the buck converter, there's no power going to it, so there's not any battery drain from the lights. And so basically, I took all these lights right here, including these ones, tied them all together right here, if you can see that, positive and negative. And then of course, right now my scooter battery is running at 66 volts output, and this reduces it down to 12 volts. So basically, I made all the lights a 12 volt system where these used to be 60 volts. Okay, and then I tied them all in together right here, positive and negative, and you know, of course, I got my 12 volts coming out here. So it looks like a lot of stuff, but I do have some room, well, quite a bit of room in my scooter, because so basically, let's go ahead and turn on the lights. And so with the switch, which will be mounted on the side of the scooter, you turn the switch on, and you got these little blue lights. Those are going to be projecting from the bottom of the scooter. And then you got these changing color lights, if you can see it there, and see how it slow pulses like that. It transitions to those different colors. That's what I wanted, instead of the fast flashing lights. And if you go on one of my previous videos, I did a little lighting review on my scooter. The Nanrobot RS7 is the one I'm talking about, and you can see it on there. It's just a quick little 1 or 2 minute video just highlighting the lights on the scooter. So this is going to give me the ability to cut the lights on and off, and also it's going to put a lot of bling on there. There's a couple of things to be aware of, though. When you're dealing with DC voltage, of course, it can be dangerous, so you want to be careful. And then also, too, you really want to make sure that your positive and your negative wires are, the polarity on your positive and negative wires are wired correctly. If not, you're going to pop something, you're going to pop a fuse, you're going to ruin maybe the buck converter or your battery. So be very, very cautious when you're wiring everything. Make sure you follow the instructions on positive and negative. Now, what I've noticed on a lot of electronics on the scooter, black is always going to be your negative and red is always going to be your positive. So that makes color coding a little bit easier. Now with this buck converter, on the back of it anyways, you can see here that yellow and black. Yellow is positive, black is negative. That's your outgoing voltage, that's your 12 volts. And on here, it's your incoming voltage with red and black, red being positive, black being negative. And then it also has the white ACC wire there too. One thing that you're going to want to do, though, you're not going to be able to get these lights to work unless your ACC wire and your red positive wire are connected together, okay, if you always want to keep them on. But if you're wiring it in with a switch like this, you're going to have to see if I can get the wires here without popping anything. But this white wire right here, see if I can get it out of here, is going to have to go to one side of the switch, which is right here, and that is going to be your load. And then your supply voltage, which is the red one, is right here, that's wired into all this right here. Okay, so you got to make sure that's wired up like that, because basically what it's doing, it's cutting the voltage off to everything. If you don't have that wired up correctly, and one thing the instructions don't have is, hey, the ACC wire has to be wired in together for the power, for you to get 12 volts out of the outcoming side. Because, you know, this is a buck converter, but basically it's a transformer. It just reduces voltage. That's all it does. So you want to make sure that your polarity and your voltage is correct, and make sure that all your lights are the same voltage, 12 volts. And then also, to get the calculations with that, I go by Ohm's law. But you know, you can just, and I'm not going to get in a bunch of calculations with Ohm's law and stuff like that, but basically these little lights are 9 watts a piece, and then I think these were, I can't even remember the wattage on these, but it basically gave me, I don't know, like 75, 80 watts, and this switch is rated for 30 amps. It's a 12 volt switch, even though I got 60 volts to it. It's a 12 volt switch, but it's rated at 30 amps. So I know I can handle the current load, because I'm not worried about the voltage. I'm worried about the amp draw of it. So you take your wattage and you divide it into your voltage, and eventually you come up with some numbers, and you just go on Google and type it in, and that'll help you get the calculation. And so basically, all this lighting, extra lighting that I have here, is only pulling about 1.5 amps, and I'll show you on my amp meter. Okay, so here's my amp meter. I'm going to put on amps DC right here, which is that, and I'm just going to clamp it to one of the wires. And let's see, let me get it on this red one here. That's only pulling 0.8, which is good. Yep, there you go. So, see, 1.4, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, somewhere around in that range. So, it's going to pull about 1.5 amp an hour, which is not bad, because at night, with my headlights and everything, it drains the battery a little bit faster. I don't get as much distance and things like that on it. So, but yeah, so it doesn't pull as many amps as I thought it was going to. These get a little warm, but no big deal. This is going to get a little warm, so where you mount it in there, you want to mount it up against the metal wall of the scooter to try to, you know, keep it cool. And that's basically it. I know it looks like a big mess right now, but hopefully I explained it good enough or well enough to you understand. If you wanted, and you can do this to any scooter. All you need, really, this bad boy right here, the buck converter, DC to DC converter. Really, all you need is that, because whatever your scooter is, doesn't matter if it's 60 volts, 48 volts, 36 volts. It doesn't matter, as long as you have the incoming voltage correctly on this. So let's say I had a different size battery at 36 volts. I could hook this up, reduce it down to 12 volts, and add as much lighting as I want in there, as long as the amperage of this will handle it. So right now I'm pulling 1.5 amps. Well, this buck converter is rated for 5 amps, and I got this off of Amazon. I think it was like 26 bucks or something like that. And these connectors, they're really cheap. They usually come in like a 3 or 6 pack. You can get these, and that's basically it. So we're going to go over to the scooter, and we are going to install all of this, get it all wired up, and then I will show you all that once I get it all in. Alright, stay tuned. Alright, all finished up with the installation of the lights for my Nanrobot RS7, not to be confused with the LS7. This RS7 they no longer sell on their website, which I've mentioned before, but basically what I have here is the lights on the side. I took from a flashing strobe to a pulsing one, and how I did that is actually I just bought a 12 volt light kit from Walmart. It was about 20 bucks, And right here it's got this little handy dandy remote. You can switch it to different colors or have it transition to multiple different colors, which that's the one I have it on. And I really like that feature because before my other ones would just flash, which I really didn't like. And those are just the silicone LED strips, waterproof, whatnot. And I just cut them to length and stuck them behind the plastic cover that was already there. Had to do a little bit of modification to fit the connection piece in there, but at the end of the day it worked out okay. It's not the best in the world. Then, you know, I also had to install this toggle switch, which is right in there. You can barely see it, but wasn't a lot of room, and I just put connectors on there. Might do a little something different, but it was really tight and it was hard to find a toggle switch because I only have a tiny bit of room, like an inch in there, so I had to bend the connectors a little bit. And all that is connected to a buck converter, which is this. It's the 20 to 72 volts, which my scooter max charge is 68 volts, and then it reduces down to 12 volts and 5 amps. So I have an amp and a half on there, which I showed you in the bench test, and I'll show you underneath the scooter. I just have these lights installed here. I have 6 of them right there. So a total I put 12 lights on because in the back here I added this one, so I got 4 brake lights now on here. So I had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, oh maybe it's 10 lights. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah, 10 lights I installed. Now there's already strip lights on here. I took those off. They were 60 volt light strips, and then put these 12 volts ones on so I can turn them on and off with a switch. And then again, I showed you on the bench, it's just these little lights. I got 6 of these off of Amazon for, I think it was like 10 bucks. The controller with the 2 LED lights were like, I don't know, 20, 25 bucks from Walmart. And then the buck converter, I think, was like 20 or 25 bucks. And then some miscellaneous connectors and things. So I'm all into this project about 60 or 70 bucks, which wasn't too bad. Now one thing, I don't know if you'll notice here, but this is where all my wires are connected. And for those of you who are kind of scared of soldering, these are solderless heat shrink connectors. They use them a lot in nautical, shipbuilding, aeronautics, things like that. But basically they're a butt connector, and then the sleeve goes over and you heat shrink it on, and it kind of water seals it with these little end pieces here. So it worked out real good, and you don't have to worry about your wires coming out because it's all heat shrinked. I mean, I guess you could use a regular connector and then put some heat shrink over there if you don't get these ones, but they're relatively cheap, and I had a bunch of them. So all my positives, negatives, and then all the wiring in here, it actually all fit pretty good. Of course, this all sits about 1/8 of an inch below the deck. When I put the deck on, I got 2 pads that go on the top here, and that sits on there, so that'll hold the kind of wires in place. We're doing that. And one thing I also want to mention too, on this buck converter, it's down in here. You can't see it because I have all these wires jammed in there, and I'm not going to pull them all out for this purpose, but I have this set this way, metal to metal, because it does get warm. I bench tested the setup. This gets warm. It never really got hot, it just got warm. And so also too, when you're moving on the scooter, of course it's going to be cold as well, but I put it metal to metal, so I set it in there like this, and that way, you know, it'll cool a little bit better with these heat sink fins on here. So hopefully that'll help keep it a little cool. Not the best installation you could ever see, but it works. And so without further ado, let's turn this puppy on. And what I'll do is I'll turn these on right like this, just so you can kind of see what's going on here, and then I'll cut out the lights. But these, you see how they transition, and with that remote, of course, I can set it to one solid color. has 10 levels of brightness on it. And so I'll be right back. I'll turn off these lights real quick. Alright, just want to give you a little look at it at night with it outside. Lights transitioning. Looks pretty good. Let's see what the brake lights look like in the dark. Yep. Nice and bright. That's what I like. So I'm going to set this down. Let's scoot down this driveway right here. Let you see it at a distance. Alright, here's the scooter with the lights cut on in the dark. And you can see, I mean, you can't really get a good idea of what it looks like here in the garage. But it's super bright on the bottom. And of course, you got the LEDs. And since these are like $10 for 6 of them, if they ever do get scraped up or messed up, they're easy to replace. I could take them out, cut the wire, connect them back, no big deal. But it turned out good, and so now I have the ability to cut it off and cut it on. And before, I couldn't do that with these lights right here. Of course, I added these, but these lights, I could not do that. When I turned on the headlights, those lights came on, and I want the ability or the opportunity to cut these off whenever I need to. And then also I'll show you the brake lights here again, which I have in a previous video. So now there's 4 lights there instead of just 1. So a little bit better visibility and safety when I'm stopping. And then also cut on the lights, the headlights. And now in a previous video I have highlighted or showed all the lights in the video, but this is what the back looks like. I'm going to cut these ones off. See, with just the 2 running lights there, and then when I hit the brakes, now we got all those lights. And then when I want to get a little bit of fancy with it, I hit the switch, boom, that's all done. So I'll let you see the other side here. Same thing there. So it's a nice little fun project while it's cold outside, and we're kind of stuck inside the house. I figured I'd do a little lighting upgrade. And there you go. So this concludes the video. And as always, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, ride safe.